Hello and welcome to my channel. My name is Abdullah Kamil and this is the 5th episode of our Excel training. In this episode we're going to be talking about producing reports using pivot tables. In the last episode we designed the flat table for our call support center, and we finished designing the table, and this table is going to be used as a source to pivot table reports. We arrived at this flat table because the original report was only good for a daily report. When our manager wanted a monthly report, we couldn't do that because it's really hard to merge all of these daily reports into one. Okay, so the data entry is no longer going to be in this report. We converted into the correct form of data entry. So your data entry has to be in a similar table like this, where every transaction here belongs to one, let's say, entity. So in our case here, each record describes one call that the call center received on a certain date. Okay, so to produce the pivot table, you need to click anywhere inside the table and then go to insert and then choose pivot table. Pivot table is smart enough to figure out the table name. So, and it's gonna give you these dotted lines, it's gonna give you where this table is. So it figured out what the table is, and now it's suggesting that we put it in a new worksheet, and this is what we're gonna do. We're gonna create some spacing here, just another column, and this is the pivot table space. And as you can see here on the right side, you get all the columns from the flat table, and you have 4 spaces here that you can use to produce your pivot table. The first one is rows, columns, and values. These are the main ones. So this is basically very similar to the structure of a cross table. So pivot tables and cross tables are basically the same, more or less. Filters is any column that you can use as a filter, something like problem type or device model or problem solved or not, and all those filters, or date filters as well. Okay, so to produce the same report that we had before for a daily report, we're gonna pick the name and drop it into rows, and as you can see here, you start seeing all the names in the report. The next thing, we're gonna drop the start time of the call, and as you can see here, because I'm using Office 365, it grouped my time, as you can see here. So we can remove this grouping by right clicking anywhere and just choose ungroup. Okay, and then the other thing is going to be the problem type. We drop it here, and the last thing we have in our original daily report is duration, and this has to be in the values. So the first thing you notice here is Excel assigned the count function to duration, and that was basically because or Excel defaulted to the count function because it couldn't understand that the duration is actually a number. Okay, so you just change that. So you click here and you see value field settings, you click on it and you can see the chosen function. Choose sum as an alternative here and click OK. And as you can see here, this is duration, but it is in the wrong format. So this is fraction of a day as it stands at the moment. So you need to change it to the correct format of a duration. So there is a format for that, and it's called elapsed time format. So to change format for a value in pivot tables, you don't do it through here. This is wrong. So the way to do it is basically to right click on the pivot table value and choose number format. Don't choose format cells, choose number format. And when you get to the number format here, you go to custom and basically you type your function here for the duration, which we have defined already, and which is this one. Okay, the at here is an extra that is used normally to display text if you have text instead of something else. Okay, so this is the format you're after. Double H between square brackets. So this is gonna, accumulate time even if it passes 24 hours. And the minute is basically the normal minutes. And hit OK, and you can see the correct format is now applied. And a proof of that, you can see 60 hours and 40 minutes here. Okay, so now it's time to make the report look a little bit better. So a good practice is to go to the design, tab, and then go to report layout and choose show in tabular form. This is the best reporting format, and you can see it already looks much better than before. The other thing we can do, we can remove the collapse and expand buttons here, and you do that by going to pivot table analyze, and then you can find it here to the right side of your screen. Click on it and it will disappear. And you can also remove some of the column, all the column headers that you have here, like name, start, problem type, by clicking field headers. So when you look at that, it's much cleaner now, but sometimes, people will wonder what this, mean basically. So we need to bring it back for our purposes here. And so far so good. We can make it look even better by merging all the cells that belong to Ahmed here and Hani and Huda automatically. So to do that, you need to be in this report format, and then right click on the pivot table, go to pivot table options, and from here you can see merge and center cells with labels. Click on it and then click OK, and as you can see here, merging is happening automatically. The other thing, we need to probably choose another design that looks a little bit better than this one. I would normally go to this one for similar reports, and the last thing you can do to kind of make this look clearer than before is to use the blank rows, and here you can insert a blank line after each item in the pivot table. So clicking on it will basically separate each employee from the others. Okay, something also that I use most of the time is to remove the grid lines, and that's going to give me some sort of a preview how the report will look like when you print it. I think now the report looks really good. So what is left now is to filter this report to the correct time period that you're looking after. So in our case here, we would like to produce a daily report. So what we can do, we can drop the date column to filters here, and as you can see here, it appears at the top of the page here. So just insert another row just to have some spacing. And now to have a daily report, basically we select this drop down menu, select the date that we would like to report on. So for example, September 20th 2016, and we click on it, and this is your daily report for this date. You can move to another date, like this first date here, and that's gonna be really a piece of cake, just moving between the days, and you can produce any file without looking into folders and trying to find the correct file that your manager is asking about. Because imagine your manager coming in your office and asking for a report of a certain date, and you need to go through all the folders that you have, and you need to kind of navigate to the correct Excel sheet, where in this case here you basically just select the correct date that you're looking for, and it will produce the daily report. All right, so this is producing a daily report. Now if your manager wants to produce a monthly report, it couldn't be easier. So you take the date and you just drop it outside, and you bring the monthly report. So you bring the month column and you drop it into filters. Now remember, months, will repeat themselves each year. So you need the year also with the month to make sure that you're selecting the right month in the right year. So we don't have the year here, so this is something we need to fix. So what we can do, we go back to the flat table and we add another column, and we call this column year. And we're going to use the text function, and we're going to select the date, and the format we're going to use is going to be the year format. Okay, we go back to the pivot table, and as you can see here, you cannot see the year yet. And to have the year appear here and be available, you need to refresh your pivot table. So now the year, as you can see here, is available to you to use. So you pick it up and drop it on top of the month. So you have the year and the month here as a filter. Okay, so to get a monthly report, basically you choose the year. For example, you can choose 2016, and I know from the data that I have the month here will not be filtered. Now, for example, the data that we have does not include January. It doesn't have anything in January for 2016. But it does have something for October, November, and December. So we click on December. And as you can see here now, you get a monthly report for the whole month. Now the only tricky thing though, in a monthly report, if you received a call in the same, let's say, time, like something similar to this one here. Okay, so at this exact time, Ahmed received, different calls at the same time. So that's gonna be, added together in the same line, and that's not good. So maybe in a monthly report or quarterly report where data is a little bit bigger than the daily report, you need probably to remove the start time of the call. It's probably not gonna be really important. So you will end up with a report like this one, which gives a much better indication of what's happening. Okay, and now with this report, now you can report on the whole month of December for 2016, and you can see for electrical, the total duration of the calls were 28 hours, for mechanical 21 hours, and for software it's 20 hours. So obviously electrical was the biggest one here, but that doesn't give more indication than this one. So maybe what the manager would like to see is more of some other information, like has the problem been solved, for a monthly report, right? So maybe for a daily report he's interested in duration. When you move to a monthly report, he's more interested in the big picture kind of KPIs or measures. So we can do that by counting the calls instead of summing them up. So we drop the call ID, and as you can see here, it applies the sum function, and that has to change because we would like to count the number of calls. So this is the number of calls now correctly defined for each problem category. Now there is something missing here, which is, has the problem been solved or not? Okay, so you can drop the problem solved onto, we can start with the name and we drop it below the name, and that's gonna give you kind of a summary for each employee. So how many problems he received as a total, and you can see how much he solved versus how many he did not solve. So this is one report that can be useful to your manager. And some other reports might be, more of a big picture. Even with the employee might be too granular for your manager. Maybe he's not interested in, the employee in a monthly report. So you can take the employee out and instead you can drop something else like department, right? So you can drop the department here, and you can see immediately now, you know, for each department how many problems each department has received and how many they, you know, solved versus how many they couldn't resolve. So this is kind of the control that you have on your data. I mean, you can just think about any report and you can immediately produce that report in a matter of seconds. This is the last episode of this training course, and just let me know if you have any feedback on the training, and maybe we can discuss something, you know, more than what we have discussed already. So what I would like you to take out of this, you know, training course is structuring your data is at the heart of how efficient you work with Excel. So when you structure your data in a flat table, you know, it makes things much easier when you try to produce reports, and it gives you full control over what you produce and how to produce it, you know. And it's really efficient and really fast as long as your data is structured correctly. Okay, so thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you in another video very soon. Thank you.